You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. President Joe Biden is proposing expanding free education by 4 years. The American Family Plan adds 2 years of pre-kindergarten and 2 years of post-high school to the existing education system at no cost. Shavar Jeffries is president for Democrats for Education Reform, who joins us right now. Shavar, glad to have you on the show. How critical is this?
This is a great thing if we can get it through Congress, Roland, and of course, great to be here with you. The investments that President Biden seeks to make both in preschool as well as in post-secondary education is really essential. We know that a high school diploma, frankly, isn't enough for what we're going to need, particularly for folks in our community, in the Black community, to be able to access the labor market and make the type of money where they can put food on the table to take care of their families. So this investment in resources is really powerful. Part of what we push, though, is we got to be able to marry resources with accountability and also innovation in public education. But the resources are a critical foundation. And so if we can get this through Congress, it'd be really a powerful first step.
Also, the focus on pre-kindergarten is vital because what we're talking about here is really trying to get students engaged much earlier than usual so they're not falling behind, especially Black and brown children.
Amen. Amen. We know so many of our children, when they hit kindergarten, they're already a year or two behind. And we know that, frankly, third grade literacy rates is a significant early indicator of whether kids are going to be on track for college and competitive careers. So making sure that our kids don't start kindergarten already behind is a critical step. Too many parts of the country, folks simply don't have access to preschool opportunities. And so this investment, again, if we can get it through Congress, will really be powerful and transformational. We're going to have to continue push for accountability because sometimes the checks get written and then our kids don't always get what they're supposed to get. But the resources are the critical foundation, so then we can hold our states accountable and make sure that there's quality programs available for kids in our community.
Jason, how big is this idea of pre-kindergarten education? Jason?
Oh, yes. No, I think that's incredibly important. When kids fall behind, and I visited some schools where I've talked to some kindergarten teachers, and they're like, the difficulty is that some kids come in not knowing their letters or not knowing their numbers, and then you have other kids who can read, and so you're either going to leave those kids who haven't learned prior to kindergarten, haven't been into a school setting prior to kindergarten behind, or the other kids are going to get bored. And a lot of times you find a happy medium, but that often still leaves those other kids behind. And so making sure that every child gets universal pre-K is incredibly important to the future of our country, and particularly for our community, for Black kids, for them to have access to education earlier is going to put them on track, as Brother Shaver said, put them on track to do well later on in life. So I think that's so important, and hopefully we'll actually tackle it with this administration.
But Shavar, what also has to happen is our community has to be mobilized and organized to ensure and demand that those resources be allocated properly on the local level.
Mm-hmm. Amen. That's critical. We see this in K-12 already, so it's a beautiful thing to get these additional resources for universal pre-K. But as you said, Roland, equity is essential in allocation. We got to get these resources allocated to the highest poverty schools, the schools with the highest percentages of Black and brown students. And then again, we got to hold the system accountable, because we have seen in many of our school districts where checks get written, but our children don't always get the education that they deserve. We need the resources. That's critical. Thank goodness for President Biden to take this step. Then we got to make sure our local advocates, our local families, our local leaders are holding the system accountable, make sure our kids get the type of education that they deserve.
Teresa.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to President Biden actually, coming through with this. And again, you're right. It's not about just checks written. It's about real resources. Not only, I'm in Philadelphia, so obviously we are probably on the scale of 100 when it comes to knowing what real reforms will look like when these resources come. But being allocated effectively is also another thing. So essentially, also hopefully this plan, and I didn't look at it thoroughly, but it also includes charter schools because here in Philadelphia, there is a need where most families, African American families, if they are having a hard time in public schools, they did take their child to charter schools. So hopefully there could be some sort of balance in there as well.
Shavar?
Well, that's a critical issue. There's a federal charter school program appropriation that will be coming up for a vote as part of the federal budget. President Biden, during his campaign, said he supports nonprofit public charter schools, and he believes that parents should have a right to select that school. We have to keep our eyes open and make sure that those dollars actually get into the federal budget. But this is a critical time. It's important for folks to know Black students, we have been disproportionately hurt by the school closures, the lack of the internet infrastructure to even access remote learning. Even if you had that internet access, it was oftentimes Black students who were learning in what's called an asynchronous way, which meant that rather than a teacher teaching live on the platform, the parent and its student had to go online into the cloud and find the lesson. When you put all of this together, early reports are showing that because of the pandemic, Black students may lose up to 1 year of learning because of the pandemic. And we already only had about 25-30% of Black students on grade level anyway. So this could be a generational set of consequences for our families and our communities. We're going to need all of our advocates to push for these dollars, but to raise our voices and hold these local systems accountable to make sure they're actually working for our kids.
Michael.
Hello, Brother Shavar. Question for you here. So there's $109 billion to offer 2 years of free community college to all Americans. Explain, why is that significant? I think it is, but I've heard some people say, well, people can already go to community college for free and get Pell Grants. Everybody doesn't qualify for a Pell Grant, but this is the argument some people are making. So explain why this change here is so significant and how will it benefit African Americans?
Well, it's an important step because we still have some states. So there are certain states that have already, as you point out, made first 2 years of community college free to get an associate's degree. There are many other states, particularly in the Southeast, Southwest, that aren't there yet. So to make those resources available, that is very significant. We should be very clear, however, that community colleges have very low graduation rates for Black students. You're talking oftentimes less than 10, 15%. In community colleges. Our children are generally better off to get to a 4-year college out of high school. Community colleges ought to be reimagined, in my view, as a workforce development space for those folks who, for whatever reason, college may not make sense for them. But we got to be very clear. We got to hold these systems accountable to produce. Sometimes folks write the check, have a nice press conference, they walk away. But then it's our kids where it's only 15 out of 100 who are graduating from these community colleges. And so it's a nice step. It's important. There's many states that don't have free community college, so that's significant. But actually holding these systems accountable to produce for our community is the step that we have to hold folks accountable for.
All right, Shavar Jeffries, we certainly appreciate it, man. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have that you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans distributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. Roland Martin, Unfiltered.com.